Hello, welcome to Today in History. My name is Sotonie Afiesima. It's the 14th of September. Let's get cracking. As usual, we will roll back the blind to the year 1741. So, the man pictured here is German-born English composer George Frideric Handel. I have featured him in a video, so check out the video. The link's on the top right hand corner of your screen right now. So what happened on this day in relation to George Frideric Handel? He completed the Messiah, considered the most famous of all oratorios. I'll place a link here as well, top right hand corner, so you can check out the Messiah. Great song, great song. I have sang it many times. I used to be in a choir back in the day. So he was a German, later British Baroque composer who spent the bulk of his career in London, becoming well known for his operas, oratorios, just like the Messiah, anthems, concerti grossi, and organ concertos. So this is George Frideric Handel, who completed the Messiah on this day, the 14th of September, 1741. Let's move on to the next event of note today. Interesting. So another musician making waves on this day. His name, as you can see here, is Francis Scott Key. He was inspired to write the Star-Spangled Banner after Fort McHenry successfully withstood a British attack. So, 1814 on this day, Francis Scott Key was inspired to write the Star-Spangled Banner. 1752 on this day. What happened? Something very strange. Apparently, we lose 11 days? Is that the way to put it? I suppose so. So, 1752, Great Britain adopted the Gregorian calendar. The date was moved ahead 11 days. As you can see from this picture, those days just did not exist on this day in 1752. So, the day after September 2nd, so what would have been September 3rd, became September 14th. So that was what happened on this day in 1752. 1829, the next year of note. On this day, Russia and the Ottoman Empire signed the Treaty of Edirne. So it's Edirne. Edirne, concluding the Russo-Turkish War of 1828 to 1829. So that treaty was signed today, and the year was 1829. 1847, Mexico City was captured by the United States forces. This painting illustrates that event that took place on this day. U.S. General Winfield Scott's advance on Mexico City was marked by an unbroken series of victories that culminated this day in 1847, when he entered Mexico City and ended the military phase of the Mexican-American War. So that's a picture or painting of the event today, the Mexican-American War. Let's move on to the year 1849. So just 2 years later, this man called Ivan Pavlov. He was a Russian physiologist known chiefly for his development of the concept of the conditioned reflex. Born on this day. Full name, Ivan Petrovich Pavlov. From his childhood days, Pavlov demonstrated intellectual curiosity along with an unusual energy, which he referred to as the instinct for research. So a bit about Ivan Pavlov. I've read a bit about him. I've heard about him now. I've known about him for probably 15 to 20 years. One of the things I found quite interesting about him was the famous experiment with his dogs, Pavlov's dogs. So you can check it out on Wikipedia to read more in-depth, find out more in-depth information about the of his dogs. So he uses dogs in an experiment, and what he did was, just before he fed his dogs, he would ring a bell. Okay, so this is, like I read earlier, conditioned reflex. So he'd ring the bell, and then he would give his dogs food. And he'd carried on with this for numerous times, if you like, So what happened now, on this particular day, he decided that he was only going to ring the bell and see what happens. Now, obviously, the dogs had now made a connection between the bell ringing and food. So on this day that he decided not to provide them with food, what happened? These dogs, he noticed that they were salivating. So they were anticipating food. They were anticipating food because that's what Pavlov had done. He had conditioned the dogs to expect food to make the connection between the bell ringing and the provision of food. Okay, so that's I found that quite interesting, how animals can be conditioned. Human beings as well, we're also conditioned. We're not exempt from that. It happens every single day, But yeah, that was an interesting observation by Pavlov. He obviously suspected that was going to happen, and that's what he did, and it happened, So that's a picture, a painting of Pavlov, who was born on this day in 1849. And like I said earlier, he's known chiefly for his development of the concept of the conditioned reflex. Okay, moving swiftly on, 1901, William McKinley, also featured in one of my videos. I'll put the link right here, right now. He died on this day. So in the video that I made 8 days ago, I did mention that he was shot. So this was the day that he died from his injuries. That's William McKinley, US President, died on this day in 1901. 1940 on this day, so 39 years later to the day, President F.D. Roosevelt, so Franklin Delano Roosevelt, signed the Selective Service Act, which allowed African Americans to enter all branches of the U.S. military service. So the implication was that prior to this day, African Americans were not allowed in certain branches of the U.S. military service. But yeah, on this day, that was a watershed moment. All African American servicemen and women were allowed to enter all branches of the U.S. military service. 1982, sadly, on this day, we lost Grace Kelly. And who was Grace Kelly? She was an American actress who abandoned her Hollywood career to marry a prince, and his name was Prince Rainier III. He was Prince of Monaco. She died after suffering a stroke and losing control of the car she was driving. So that's Grace Kelly for you, who sadly lost on this day in 1982. Last but not least, we encounter this guy, Patrick Swayze. Who was Patrick Swayze? Of course, you very likely know who Patrick Swayze was. He was an American dancer and actor, and was best known for his performances in the box office hits Dirty Dancing, which was released in 1987, and Ghost in 1990. He died, sadly, on this day from pancreatic cancer in Los Angeles. So I'm going to end with this quote of his, which Obviously, you can read on your screen, but for those who are unable to read this, I'm going to read it now. He says, and I quote, "I found that dance was key to keeping depression out of my life. When you dance, things just go away. Things don't seem so bad. There's no better way to take care of health than through something as joyous and beautiful as dance." So, Patrick Swayze, who we lost on this day in 2009. I'm sure our hearts go out to his family today as they remember their loved one, Patrick Swayze, who entertained millions and millions of people around the world from his box office hits Dirty Dancing and Ghost. On that note, we shall end Today in History. I appreciate you joining me. See you tomorrow, hopefully, for another edition of Today in History for the 15th of September. Like this video if you like it by giving me a thumbs up. Consider subscribing as well. So you do that by clicking on the notification bell so that you are notified whenever I upload a video. Thanks again, guys. See you tomorrow. Stay safe. Bye-bye.